Greetings, beautiful beings. I am Melissa Knight. This is SOAR, Sacred One, Amplify Your Roar. I am an oracle, an Akashic practitioner, a light worker, a shaman, an energetic healer. I am here to help others find, rediscover, connect with, and amplify their light and their roar. The roar is about repurposing, recycling, and reclaiming righteous rage. We've all been through things. We've all been trampled upon, we've gone over things and under things and been run over and flattened, in fact, or so we thought. But we got up. And then what did we do? Did we really get up fully? Did we reclaim our position and our trajectory that we were on for our life? Did we find our life purpose? Did we learn how to find and light our light for the world? I'm here to help you do that and to bring some other people along who are also excited about helping you to do that. In this show, I'll be joined by artisans, artists, healers, practitioners of all types, shamans and curanderos, medicine women and men, Akashic practitioners and Reiki practitioners, pranic healers, cranial sacral. My job, as I see it, is to prepare you and to equip you with the tools that you need, because we each have to have our own sacred medicine bag. We never know when someone we encounter will need our sacred medicine or help finding their own. That's what this journey is all about. It's about finding a tribe, building a community, setting a stage globally for connection, unification, love, and healing, radical healing, because it's absolutely time that we, each of us, reclaim our true selves, reach for our highest and truest selves. I'm ready. I am. Are you? Let's go. Let's soar together. Thank you for joining us for another episode of SOAR. Today we're joined by Dawn Everhart, and she has brought some beautiful drums and is going to tell us her lovely story of the journey to drumming, to shamanic work, and healing. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Melissa.
Please, please, I'm excited to actually hear your story and share it with all of our audience. I love the drums that you've brought, and you're just such a lovely spirit.
Thank you. Well, it started about 1978, 79, oh so long ago, in, of all places, Visalia, California, just south of Fresno here. And I happened to meet a dear person in a philosophy class, and through her, she invited me to learn meditation. Her boyfriend was very adept at doing past life regression, all that kind of thing. And so I really became familiar with a different kind of spirituality because of them. At the time, the gentleman owned a bookstore called Alternate Worlds Books.
Love it.
In Visalia, and I got to work there a little bit, and so was exposed to all these amazing metaphysical, and at that time probably called occult books, and that really started me on my journey. So as I moved up to Fresno to go to Fresno State, I found meditation groups to be a part of, And then in 1992, I moved to Denver, Colorado for a job.
Okay.
And walked into a metaphysical bookstore to have my astrology chart read, and signed up for a Reiki class, which is energy healing, signed up to learn tarot card reading, and just found this whole new world that was behind a curtain maybe for so long for me. And
You walked in and it was like, I'm home, I'm here, this is it, I'm ready for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Then through making connections there in Denver, a dear, dear friend, Mary Beth Griffin, who I just spent 2 weeks with.
Nice.
And she's a crystal healer, so that's why I have all
They're
this.
beautiful. I've been noticing, yes, they're beautiful.
Was my massage therapist, and I, few weeks into getting massage every week, I came in to see her. She came and handed me a book called Soul Retrieval by Sandra Ingerman. And she said, guess what, Dawn, we're going to be shaman. And I said, God, that's great. What's that? And so she kind of explained to me. I went, oh, okay, you know, I've seen enough, you know, movies and that kind of thing. And through looking at Sandra Ingerman's book, I realized there was a group called the Foundation for Shamanic Studies, which is now in Marin, California. Sandra at the time was the education director. And lo and behold, about 3 or 4 months later, she was coming into Boulder to teach a shamanic journey class. And so that's where I got my start in shamanism.
I love it.
So in a ballroom at a hotel, of all
of all places, right? And this path, what has it meant for your life?
It has given me great purpose and meaning, and it underlies everything else I do. The other awesome, wonderful thing that has happened is I met my husband through a regional drum circle.
How cool is that?
I had dear, dear friends who were getting married, and they said, oh, Dawn, we want you to be in love and find somebody. And they said, what would you want? What do you want in a guy? And I said, well, shamanism is clearly my spiritual path. And I said, so obviously I would really prefer someone who not only accepted it, but maybe participated in that. Also, I just am really attracted to engineers. They're really methodical, logical people, and I don't always feel like I'm that methodical and logical. So I laughed and I said, well, what I need is a shaman engineer. Sure enough.
Was this a full moon?
So I didn't realize I had already met him at this regional drum circle, and about 2 years later, he ran into a girlfriend of mine and said, can I have Dawn's number? And sweetly she said, well, I'll take your number and give it to her because she's a good girlfriend.
We've got to make sure that you're not,
Right.
Check you out.
And lo
vetting.
and behold, he was a shamanic practitioner and he's a civil engineer.
Wow.
So how many of those do you get?
Right? And you put that intention out there and you manifested it. When you met him, did you say, I conjured you up?
So something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, you're kidding.
Right.
That couldn't have been possible. So that is one way that my life has been impacted so positively, and amazing journey just
I love it.
with our relationship and everything that we've done together.
You have to be very specific about what we ask for because the universe says yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Many, many years later, we were traveling with my husband's job around the United States for 16 years in our RV. And I wasn't able to really go to work for very long because we sometimes only be in a place 4 or 5 months. And so I was feeling a little lost at that point, and decided to do a series of shamanic journeys, which is listening to a monotonous drum beat and going into a deep meditative state. And I did a series of journeys, and my guidance said, go into nursing. And I said, oh, no. That is,
There are sick people.
Sick people, bleeding, there's, all these.
Needles and things.
Yes, and it's like, you're going to trust me to come at someone.
Right,
yes, with a needle. And
So can we do that over? Can we do a different drum beat? Can we
right,
try this one more time? Can we get a different
exactly,
answer?
because you just resist.
Right.
And everything came together
Of course.
for me to go to nursing school and graduate at 55 years old.
Lovely. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. So it was just this amazing experience of relying on my spirituality and everything that it's brought to me in alleviating stress, to get over childhood trauma, or to process childhood trauma, I should probably say is more accurate, and to start that healing process personally for me. And I have been able to share that with other people. There's a specific type of healing in shamanism called soul retrieval. It's the idea of when you've been through a trauma, and it can be anything. It can be an auto accident, a surgery, an emotional thing. And the healer can go journey for a person and bring their soul part that is gone away from them for a time, and to bring that back to the person so they can heal whole.
Pull those fragments back in. Awesome, awesome. And where do you do this practice?
Well, I teach a few different places. One is Gaia House of Healing here in Fresno, and twice a month we have a drum circle that's just about an hour and a half. I bring the drums, and people get to experience drumming for themselves. And then we also do a journey that's kind of guided imagery to meet up with their guidance, have some healing, have a word of wisdom. So I do that on the first and third Tuesday. Also, we have a women's circle that meets at my home, and we meet every Monday and have different healing and meditation every time we meet. But on the third Monday of the month, we have drumming, and it's specifically a drum healing for women, and have experienced amazing things with women who've never done this kind of thing before, never picked up a drum, and just found their inner healer, and were able to share with others and hold space for them.
Absolutely.
And that is really what we're doing.
That's powerful.
To be able to do that. So, and it's a lot of fun, and it brings people great joy. It brings me great joy.
It shares joy with the world, and music is so healing. And there's something about the beat of a drum that really does call our soul, and it resonates with our heart, and we connect with it at a level that is surprising, I think, for most people when they first experience that. Yeah, it's definitely a sacred instrument.
So I'd like to talk a little bit about the drums.
Please.
So I gather together lots of different ones. We have about 22 drums in our home. And we used to travel in this RV, so we had all these drums in our RV, which was funny. So the drum on top here is a turtle drum, and it's made of hide, and it's from Taos, New Mexico, and it was a gift from my dear friend Mary Beth, and very long time ago. This drum is my husband's, and it's made of deer hide. And sometimes when it rains, the hide drums, just like your skin, absorb moisture, so they'll sound kind of flat. So to counteract that, I have a synthetic drum here, and this is actually the drum I use most of the time. And they all have kind of different backs on them, different ways to hold them. And,
Show us.
The different people find it more comfortable. So this one is a two-sided drum, and you just play it like this. You want it to be able to resonate like that. And so when I teach drumming, people can choose whatever they want. I have these, we call them beaters or mallets, and you can tell this one is more something you would find in a timpani orchestra. This one is kind of the same way, but it's been adorned with leather and a stick of some sort. So when I teach people how to journey, it's just a monotonous drum beat. And and then they follow along. And these types of drum beats have been found when people are hooked up to EEG machines to produce alpha and theta brainwave states, which are deep meditation, and even can be similar to rapid eye movement. So you can actually have a waking dream.
Wow.
Which is amazing. So we go through, we do that for about 10, 15 minutes. People follow along, kind of builds your power, and there's something amazing about having 20 or more people drumming along. We have rattles, we have brass bowls, we have some other fun things like that. And then at the end, I do what's called a callback, and it's 4 sets of 7, and it's just. And then the folks who are drumming know it's time to come back from their journey.
Beautiful, beautiful. So folks who are journeying, they come back. What size is the group? And do they share what they experienced on their journey with each other, or is that private? What's that process for folks?
So the people who are journeying, it helps to have a stated intention and even to write it down, actually.
Okay.
And typically I have a theme for the groups at Gaia House. I have a theme for them to kind of go from, because it's such a new experience, they don't even know what to ask. So often I'll say you're going to meet your authentic self. You're going to meet a spirit guide who has a gift for you, a word of wisdom. And you're going to start at your starting place. You're going to start at a beautiful place that you've been to in this reality. Can be the lake, the ocean, up at the sequoias, any place like that that you feel is just beautiful. And you want to start to put that intention out and to walk out and have that idea that that being or that person is going to come to you. Now, they can come in many ways. They can come as an animal, and we call those power animals. Some people will call them totems. And it could be anything. It could be actually an insect. It could be an ant or a spider.
Right.
One girlfriend years ago had a scorpion that she was not thrilled was her power animal, and yet here he was.
Yeah.
All the way to mice and mammals, all that kind of thing. Also, your power animals can be mythological creatures, dragons, unicorns, Pegasus, or extinct animals when you think of a saber-toothed lion and that kind of thing. I also tell people your teacher, your guide can be a rock, a stone. Think of the power in El Capitan, in a monolith like that. What that must be speaking to you. It could be a single flower. It could be a flower petal. So it's not always a person. It can be many, many other things. And just be open. And what I tell people again and again, I don't possess any power that you don't have. I've taken some classes, I've practiced a lot, and I was open. I told Spirit I was open. And so these opportunities have came. But I believe we all have that ability and that power inside us, that inner healer to bring forth. At that point, we go, we meet up with our spirit guides, we have an experience. This is also an opportunity as an adult for you to let your imagination out to play. Because you don't get a lot of opportunities like that. And so when people come back and relate their experience, it's not for me to interpret. And what I love about this kind of shamanic journey, it empowers the person.
Yes, it does.
And lets them have the interpretation. They do share often, well, I saw this, or I felt that. Sometimes you can smell things. Sometimes
all the sentences.
People will go into journeys and have feasts. So that's a really low-cal way to go and have a feast with their power animals and their helping spirits. So there can be this whole menagerie of guides all around us. My other thought about power animals. Power animals are with us today in the 21st century. When we look at the names of sports teams, when we look at the United States, our symbol is an eagle. That's not by mistake.
No.
That is because we have an attachment. In California, we have a grizzly bear. So every state in the union has an animal that represents them. So we're still very attached to those old ways. We just don't realize it's here, it's prevalent. When a child is born, we bring them little stuffed bears and lambs. So
it's not that we're not doing it, it's that we're not necessarily making the connection that this is indigenous healing medicine, that this is something that's been going on for centuries, and it really is about healing and wholeness. Yeah, we think it's a teddy bear, and that's something that's on the state flag, or right,
exactly,
something that you learn in 5th grade. But no, this is, it's all connected.
Right. Yeah. Shamanism, they believe, at least dates back some 50,000 years, probably beyond that. It predates all religion.
Absolutely.
And shamanic practices are on every single continent. From Siberia to, you think of the Aboriginal people in Australia, the European people, up into the Sami people who were up in Norway and Lapland and up there, who herd the reindeer. And the actual word shamanism comes from the Tungus tribe in Siberia, and it's kind of been adopted by the anthropological community as well as just normal people when you talk about popular culture and shamanism as that placeholder for the person who is the priest doctor in their community. There are still many indigenous shamans practicing to this day.
Yes.
There's a wonderful group called the Indigenous 13 Grandmothers who are from all over the world who have gathered for healing, and in their little places in the Amazon are still doing their specific practices, just like their grandmothers did and their grandmothers before them. So it's wonderful to see that. So myself, as a urban, suburban, 21st century woman, I take from many different practices. What I originally learned was called core shamanism, which is kind of eclectic or non-culturally specific shamanism. It's just taking, listening to the monotonous drumbeat, doing a journey, and connecting with your helping spirits. What I tell people when we start to, there are those people who want to be more in depth with their shamanic practice, is you may be called to a specific culture, and it may not be one that is obvious. For instance, some people who, they know they're from Irish descent may be called to Curanderismo, which is of Hispanic Mexican descent. But I believe we're all one.
Right.
So maybe you're called to something like that. And I believe that your teachers will come both in the spirit world and in this world.
Absolutely.
They'll show up.
How many teachers have you had on this journey?
Probably in excess of 100. Some teachers will just come for one healing. Some I work with in an ongoing basis. I have specific teachers when I do soul retrieval, ones that I work with my healing, my own healing path for me, and being grounded and less stress in my life.
Right.
That's my intention anyway. Sometimes I will connect with the person I'm doing the healing for, connect with their paranimal or their teacher, and bring them back for them to work with at a later time.
That's fabulous. That's wonderful. The folks that you take on journeys and the experiences that they have, you've been doing this for in excess of 20 years, 25 years. You must have some incredibly rich stories of transformation and healing and the ways that this work really impacts people's lives and takes them beyond a place where they may be stuck. Or what are some of those stories? What are some of the experiences that people share?
So one person who comes to mind was dealing with divorce specifically, and was quite, everyone is sad when they go through divorce. There's a grieving process, but I really felt like she had gone to kind of a dark self-blaming kind of place.
Right.
And we ended up helping her with a soul retrieval. In that case, the soul part, in old-fashioned shamanism, I should say, or more indigenous shamanism, I've read accounts where the shaman goes and like kidnaps the soul part and brings it back. I don't do that. I'm much more gentler.
Right.
I try to talk to the soul part to bring them back and say the person is in a safer place. They're doing things to keep themselves grounded, and you can come on back. Sometimes in this particular case, I had to leave the soul part there to make the decision. I would like to say that doing shamanic healing can work very well with counseling, therapy, medical treatment, that kind of thing. But
It layers very well.
I feel with this particular friend that not being so strong-arm about the soul retrieval, about a year later, she called just as excited as could be, and she had learned how to journey with a drum, with a tape and everything, and she called me and said, I'm back, I'm back, I'm back, I'm back. And I still get goosebumps.
Yeah, I did. I got chills.
And she could feel herself becoming whole. But it took a while, you know, and sometimes we want things to happen
instantaneously,
in a
it's
hot
not
flash,
necessarily.
and it just doesn't. I had another dear friend who was in my drum circle who had been practicing shamanism much longer than I, who had to have surgery, and they actually allowed me to be with her right up until the time in the prep area and everything before they took her into surgery. And then as soon as she had come to and was doing okay after the anesthesia, I was allowed to come in and do healing on her, to hold her hand, to be kind of behind the scenes, even then before I was a nurse or anything, and be there. What her decision was in having the surgery is she also had to have her spiritual part there. And she said, I need to make sure all my soul parts are back because, having surgery, you're very vulnerable.
So true.
In that moment. So what I did while she was in the other room having the surgery is I just held space and meditated for her until she got out. And then we did a little healing. And even with that, in a day or two, she said, you know what, this surgery was so different than something she'd done before. She said, I feel like I can spring right up, I can get right back to my life. I don't feel fragmented. I don't feel like I'm watching my life outside of myself. Those kinds of things people will report.
So it sounds like there was an avoidance of, and I don't mean avoidance, there was a way to not have to engage fear in the process of going under the knife and under anesthesia, and to have a healing partner there who was holding space prevented that, which of course allows for a more complete healing.
Absolutely. Some of the work I've done has helped alleviate pain. I was told by a client's mother, oh, I'm so glad you're here because and the client's mother was a nurse practitioner. So I felt very honored to be doing work on her daughter, who had had a great deal of abdominal surgery and very painful. And she reported that when I came to do the healing in the evening, I came several evenings in a row, that her daughter needed less pain medication, was able to sleep more soundly. And she felt like, of course, all that led to healing sooner and getting back to who you are and feeling more whole. So I got to work in hospitals long before I was a nurse. I just didn't realize where spirit was leading me.
Exactly. So as you look back at that, when you had that call of, okay, it's nursing, there were the steps along the way that were preparing you for that information.
Absolutely.
So it resonated even more.
I
That's
just
perfect.
didn't know it. So one of the wonderful lessons that I've learned along the way is putting those ideas out there, putting those hopes, those dreams to spirit, and then just watching where it flows.
That's right. Allowing. Step in, lean in, say yes, and allow.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
This has been beautiful. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope that this has been informational and educational and inspirational. And I hope to see you next time. Thank you.